Welcome to the Anime Bucket Quest! Let's get started!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Anime Bucket Quest, the podcast where we go to the top 100 anime on this quest to complete the poster. I'm your host, Stefan Chais, and welcome back to episode 3. As you know from last episode, I told you this anime is going to be talked about today. It's an original by the same creative Air. So if you enjoy how Air push your emotional thing, but get ready for this one. It's gonna knock you out your socks off. Because today's episode, we focus on the original anime, Angel Beats. And like I said, this is gonna play with your emotional heartstrings as well. Like I said, this is also created by Jun Maeda. Like I said, if you thought Air, which we talked about in episode 1, was an emotional ride, we're back with the same mastermind, Jun Maeda, but this time it's not an adaptation. This is the first time, which is an anime original. The anime itself was produced in 2010 by Studio PA Works. This is a studio known for its gorgeous animation, and Angel Beats is one of their most famous works. Only 13 episodes of about a couple OVAs, which kind of makes it kind of like the shortest type anime where animes try to do like 13 episodes. So we're introduced to our protagonist, Yuzuru Otonashi, who wakes up with no memories in the middle of a high school at night. He is immediately greeted by a girl named Yuki Nakamura, who is pointing a sniper rifle at another girl in the distance. Yuri informs him that he is dead and this is the afterlife, a limbo for teenagers who died with deep regrets. So basically the conflict is Yuri is the leader of the SSS Afterlife Battlefront team, a rebel force fighting against God for the unfair lives they were given. Their one and only target, that girl in the distance, the student council president they call Angel. So, like I said, this is where the world's rules, basically what the main plot of the story is. This is just like one of those like typical high school slice of life type of shows. It's basically a world where you cannot die. You can be shot, blown up, or crushed. You'll just wake up a few minutes later. Watching out this anime kind of allows for like incredible slapstick comedy, kind of like the Rochester chair gags what you'll see in the later episodes, which is kind of hilarious, but also hides a serious truth. So once again, we'll talk about the central cast. Mostly, in my opinion, the real 3 you need to focus on more. Where Yuzuru Otonashi, he's basically the amnesiac hero. He's the kind of quote straight man who joins the SSS to figure out the world's rules and, more importantly, his own past. Like I said, this whole thing is they're stuck in limbo, kind of like purgatory type aspect where these students died at different times and they're stuck in this, world where pretty much, the guy's like, he doesn't remember how he got there. He realized we're introduced to Yuri, who is Yurpe Nakamura, who's the strong-willed leader. Her rebellion is fueled by her own tragic past and her own refusal to accept a cruel god. So she's someone who's trying to question fate and how they end up in this role and trying to find a better solution to overcome it. Then you got Kande Tachibana, who's, quote, the angel. She's the supposedly antagonist. She's a quiet, white-haired girl with supernatural abilities like Hand Sonic, who tries to enforce the school's, quote, normal rules. The mystery of who she is and what she really wants is the core of the plot. So basically the goal of this whole thing is, when you get through the 13 episodes in the OVAs, basically the whole premise is to actually realize that this world isn't a prison to fight against, but a second chance. The true purpose of this world is to allow these teens to fulfill their dreams and to overcome the regrets they had in life. Once they find peace and accept their past, they pass on or get obliterated by, quote, graduating, moving on to the next point of the afterlife, where they can eventually get reborn to a new world. So that's basically it. Like you're basically stuck. So basically, these teams are stuck in limbo, and they can generate any kind of weapons or things they want to combat, of course, against Angel and the quote, student council. Because it's basically the Angel's trying to push, her purpose is trying to push these students to realize, why they're there, to confront their past and try to remember what they missed in life and try to overcome the obstacle to eventually get graduate or move on or pass on, maybe to reincarnation. So this is where the anime kind of like I said, it's kind of like what if you thought Air was messed up. Like I said, this anime has its comedic moments, but again, pulls you by the emotional heartstrings. It's crazy how I'm starting out with these animes going on right now that plays on human emotions. So sorry, but that's how it is at the start of this list. So let's talk about the music and emotion. So the first major gut punch comes from Iwasawa, who's the leader of the emotion of the in-show band Girls Dead Monster. Her backstory and her final song, My Song, perfectly explains the show's premise of finding release. So this girl, she wanted to play music, and then one of her biggest regret that she was never the ability to perform in front of people, and because something happened to her where she ended up, appearing in this limbo world. And she's able to overcome her shyness, her struggles, and eventually, they were able to perform one final concert where she was able to graduate. Then you got the Yui Hinata story. This is arguably the show's most famous moment. You got Yui, who's the hyperactive punk rock girl who has a backstory of total paralysis. Her dreams are simple: to perform a German suplex, play baseball, and get married. And of course, you got Hideki, his line to Yui: "I'll marry you, even if you can't walk or stand, or even if you can't have kids, I'll still marry you." And it kind of like it's one of those scenes where yeah, this girl was paralyzed, in her whole life. She remember she was paraplegic, she couldn't do. So her regret was she's trying to do all these things that she felt she could do because paralyzed, and not to pretty much you can tell she was trying, and not to kind of his thing is about all acceptance and stuff, and he was able to help her out, pass on. So this is one of those like one arcs that kind of pulls you in, and of course as we learn throughout the story, we find out Otonashi's past starts, revealing himself, and he finds out his connection to Kanade. And you see kind of glimpses into Otonashi's past where it involves him dying in a train crash. And it kind of pulls and that connection he has with Kanade when you get to the last episode, kind of pulls the heartbreaking twist of why she looks familiar to him. And I don't want to like spoil it too much, but it's one of those things where why he wants to help people. It kind of gives you the idea of why he did what he did. So my high point for this series, it is a tearjerker for a reason. When it hits hard. Like I said, if you thought Air was something that plays emotion, like I said, it hits hard with this anime. And of course, the animation and the sound, PA Works animation is stunning. I love the bright colors. And of course, the soundtrack and the character design are wonderful. It's a perfect mix. Both the score and of course you get some songs by Girls Den Monster. It's kind of legendary status. And the premise is the concept is brilliant, creative, and compelling. Like I said, it's an original work. So it's one of those things where it kind of plays with the spiritual side. Like, say for example, you pass on, you regret not making it. So this is like an opportunity that you try your best to try to, you know, go over that regret and never, take something that you couldn't do when you were living and you get an opportunity to right that wrong, right that regret, and able to pass on. The biggest criticism I have to this show is the pacing itself. It's rush. You know, people love Rush. To me, it kind of like I felt we're introduced to this massive cast of the members, but unfortunately, what I didn't like about it is you have no time to explore their backstories. You get small glimpses into their past, but it moves so much faster. By the time you get to the end, it's like you got so attached to these characters, and now it's sad to see them move on. But it sucks to the fact that they only peek a little bit into their past, while the main theme was about Kanade and Otonashi's connection, because you get more glimpses of his past, and Kanade, you get more in their connection versus like everybody else. They get like not even like maybe like 10 seconds or even 2 minutes of their backstory. And like I said, it felt rushed. I wish this would have been a lot longer. I understand it was 13 episodes, but I just felt the plot kind of rushed versus just, if this was 26 episodes, it kind of be better because then you could focus on at least two characters back past to get an understanding with these characters, because it made me, I started crying the last episode when it was like the graduation, but the only characters I felt crying were like the leader and, Otonashi, because that was the only two they kind of focused on mostly and kind of did. But so it kind of sucked for the fact that you had these other characters introduced, but you get very little bit into their past, which kind of made their graduation felt underwhelming. Um, but I found out more that there was a rumor. Supposedly, there was a rumor that Angel Reese was originally planned for 26 episodes and was cut in half. I don't know if it's true or not. It's a masterpiece crammed to the space half side. That's why, to me, my only thing I kind of found that it was too rushed. If it was 26 episodes, I would have been fine with the pacing. The pacing would have been much better instead of feeling rushed. I know there's a lot of like now. I feel that now with today's animes, very rarely you see animes go for 27 episodes. You see some go to 13 episodes because they now they're trying to cater to the Western audiences now versus Japanese audiences, where for Western audiences, they want to binge everything all in one go. They don't want to, wait for a long build up storyline. They're trying to push as much as they can so that they can start working on the next season. So I kind of understand why they had to do. Um, my final word for this anime, I mean, does it belong to on this bucket list? Do I agree that belongs on this poster? I will say yes. Angel Beats itself is a definition of a flawed masterpiece. If it's rush, it's messy, but its high points are some of the highest in all of anime. It's an unforgettable experience, and that's the whole point of a bucket list. It's a must watch because of its beautiful, ambitious, and chaotic heart. And the quotes that I kind of pull from the anime, my two favorite quotes are pretty much, in the end, you're afraid a girl who declared war on God finally finds peace. Her long speech about her struggle is the show's entire thesis, but she ends it with this. That's why her, Otonashi Kane were kind of ones I kind of attached to when it came to their graduation. So that's why those three kind of hit hard. And Yuri's final words is, but I come to live out my life. I finally accept it all. That's what it means to be alive. So definitely check out the OVAs. Check out the anime. You can find it on Crunchyroll itself. It's available on Crunchyroll to stream. And definitely, when you have the opportunity, watch it. It's really good. I definitely enjoy it. They do have available in dub. Um, but if you want a more emotional, I would go with the sub on this one. And I'm sorry I forgot about All My Guys, but definitely recommend the sub as well. But like I said, I'm watching, just a bit disclaimer, I am watching all these animes in its original language. I will let you know in the future episodes if there's something that's better in dub. But on this one, to hear the pure emotional side and of the characters, definitely watching Japanese. Definitely check it out on Crunchyroll. Like I said, thank you so much for joining me this week. Hope you enjoyed this short format episodes of the pod. It's one of those like mini chunks that take out at least 15 or 14 minutes of your day. Um, like the pacing of the show, that's why I kind of feel like it's better than wasting a whole hour watching on one anime, because some of these animes are going to be short. Some could be 26 episodes, some could be 15 episodes or 13 episodes. So having kind of like short format, it makes it easier to take those chunks. That way you can take your time to watch them and come back to my critique. So hopefully you agree that this definitely belongs on this bucket list. You know, thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. You can follow the audio version and video version available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and other platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at the franchise if you want to post something on there, like what anime you feel does it belong on the bucket list or not. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, geek on, take care, and watch anime.